Hi everybody, welcome back to Brelsford Family Homestead. I'm Darcy. Today we are going to make French bread. I had posted about this in the community tab a week or so ago, and one of the subscribers, Tanya, thank you, asked for this video. So here we go. Let's get our ingredients together. This bread doesn't require a lot of ingredients or a lot of hands-on time, but you do need to plan ahead a little bit, like most breads, because it needs to have some time to rise. So after we mix it up and knead it, it will need at least 1 hour to rise. Then we'll form the loaves. It will rise again for 15 minutes, and then the baking time. So it's not a long time. You could still decide in the middle of the afternoon that you wanted it for dinner and get it done in time. So what we need is 3 to 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I typically use all or most of that. It's going to depend on your humidity and things like that in your kitchen. You're going to need 1.5 teaspoons of instant yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 cups of warm water. You can take the temperature and get it at 95 to 110. Let's see, this came out of my tap. What's it at? It is about 98. So that's good. If you don't have an instant read thermometer, just stick your finger in it, and as long as it's warm but not hot, it will work. You don't want to kill your yeast by adding too hot of water. And then you're going to need just a little bit of water, maybe a teaspoon or so, and an egg for later, to put an egg wash on the loaves before they go in the oven. That'll give them a nice golden color. I'm going to use my stand mixer today, but you can totally do this by hand. But you are going to knead this for probably about 8 minutes. So that's going to take some arm strength. So if you're challenged in that area and you have a stand mixer, just go ahead and get that out. I also have to use a little less flour this way because I don't have to flour my counter to be able to do it and it not be sticky. And it's a little less cleanup. And we're all for that, right? So let's get all of these things together. I'm going to just take out 1/2 cup of this flour first, just so if I don't need all of it, it's not already in there. Salt and our yeast. I'm going to go ahead and put my paddle on here. I will use this just to bring the dough together. Am I plugged in? Yes. And then we'll switch to the dough hook after we get the water in there. Okay. You want to make sure that's all kind of in a clump before you switch to the hook and you don't have any dry flour down at the bottom. If there's a little bit, maybe you couldn't hear me over that. If there's a little bit, it's okay, but we want it to mostly be joined together. Let me give you a look here. Just like that. Get all of this off of the paddle, and then we will put the hook on there. And if it's looking like it needs more flour, we'll just add it as it is kneading. So it's pretty simple. If I had my spatula, I would do this with my spatula. I'll bring you in closer once I have this going with the dough hook, especially if I'm going to add more flour. And you put this on 2 for kneading for the KitchenAid. I can tell that I want a little more flour in here, so I'm going to go ahead and add that now. About half of that, just to see how it responds. Pretty soon I want that to start pulling away from the bowl. This is what we want it to look like. We want it to be pulling away from the sides of the bowl. So we're going to continue to let this knead for the full 7 minutes. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, we're ready to pull this out. I am going to let it rise in this bowl. No need to dirty another one. So if you mixed it in a mixing bowl and you kneaded by hand, just stick it right back in there. I do want to make sure that I get all of this off of here, and I'm going to form it into a ball and toss it in here. isn't totally necessary. You could just have it in there. It is going to be a little bit sticky, especially if you mix it with the mixer, but it's all going to be good. So there I have that. You're gonna cover it with a towel, or if you happen to have a bowl cover like this one that I made, cover it like that. After you've covered your bowl, you're gonna put it in a relatively warm space to let it rise for at least an hour until it's doubled in size. I just usually leave it on the counter, but if it's a little bit cool in the house, in the kitchen, you could turn your oven light on and put it in the oven. That will also help it to rise a little faster. So I'll bring you back to see this once the rising time is done. Our dough is doubled in size and ready to be formed into the loaves. You're going to want to make sure you preheat your oven to 450 degrees, and you're going to need something for steam in the bottom of your oven. So any kind of pan. I have this one only for putting water in my oven because they tend to get a little funky, like the minerals in the water get deposited on there and stuff. So you can bake the bread itself on a pizza stone or any type of baking sheet. I'm using this with a piece of parchment paper. So let me turn you down here and we'll make the loaves. We're gonna divide this dough in half and make 2 loaves. And we're going to want to just press them out to 8 by 10. So if you have a little slip mat with measurements on it, you could do that. You could just eyeball it, or you could put a piece of tape on here just to give yourself an estimate so that they're pretty much the same size. So let's sprinkle a little bit of flour here, and you're just going to use your hands to press this out. You don't need a rolling pin or anything. But first thing is to divide this dough in half. And what I like to do is I just have this kind of flexible scraper, and I just kind of cut and pull it away. And those are close enough to the same size. I'll put that one to the side. Just gonna press it out. If it's fighting you to get to the size that you want, just let it sit for another minute, let it relax a little bit. You're just gonna pull and push with your fingers. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you try to get that, the same on both sides, then when you roll it up, it'll be a little bit more uniform in a pretty loaf when we're all done. So when you have it like this, this is approximately the right size. That's good enough. You're going to fold it in half, and then you'll fold it in half again. I'm going to do this one forward so you can see. And then you'll pinch that seam closed, and then the ends, you're just going to fold them up, and you're going to pinch all around those as well. And it'll make a nice looking loaf like this. I'm going to put that on my parchment paper, and I'll try to get you in a different angle to see the second one. All right, here is our second one. Hopefully you can see as I make the seams and things a little bit better from this angle. Okay, so we're gonna fold this in half, like this, like edge to edge. And then you're gonna do that again this way. Okay. And then you just pinch. Can you see? All of those edges. And then we just kind of tuck all that in. That'll give it kind of a rounded end there. like you see on French bread. And then we're going to put this seam side down on our parchment paper. Now that these are on the parchment paper, we are going to let them rise for another 15 minutes, but we are going to score them first. A serrated knife works really well. This is actually a Rada tomato knife, but you're just going to put a couple slashes on there. I usually do about 3. More than that is fine. And we're going to let this rise for 15 minutes. Then we'll put the egg wash on and put it in the oven. Loaves are done with their second rise, so now we need to put the egg wash on and put them in the oven. I have a electric kettle, so I just heated some water in there. You could just put water from the tap if you wanted when we put the bread in, but I'll show you that. Let's get the egg wash going. I'm just gonna take 1 egg and a little bit of water. You could just use the egg yolk if you wanted to. Just make sure you beat that really well. And I forgot my little brush. Let me grab that. We're just gonna brush the tops of both of these loaves, and that will give them a really nice color. Go ahead and do inside the slits as well. This is going to go in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Now that you have this delicious smelling dough, you need to put it on a cooling rack and not slice into it, I know, until it is completely cool. It does change the texture if you cut it before it cools. So do yourself a favor and just let it go, walk away. Don't slice it yet. Our bread has cooled. You can see it has a nice little crust on the bottom. It smells delicious. This is the other one. You know, this is maybe not bakery perfect in the way that it looks, but that's okay. It will taste delicious, and homemade bread is always better. I also wanted to show you that I have these breadcrumbs. This is from the last time I made some of this bread. I made a lot of it, and one of the loaves just got left and didn't get eaten. So I chopped it up, let it dry, and then ground it up. Homemade breadcrumbs, cheaper and better for you than store-bought. So let's slice into this and give it a taste. Right now, I'm just gonna cut little rounds like this to taste it, and also one of my daughters wants to have some. Well, not sure why that wasn't cutting on the bottom, but this makes really good garlic bread. I have also made this and used it as one of my breads in my homemade dressing recipe or stuffing for Thanksgiving. Okay, so you can see that it's really, really nice and soft. We'll give that a taste. And my daughter's over here tasting it too. That's really good.
Yeah.
What do you think? You like it?
Yes.
She would probably eat the rest of this if I gave it to her. Let me finish chewing this up. Homemade bread is not difficult. It is truly so much easier than we often think. You know, we see so many things and it seems difficult, like you have to have everything perfect, but it really isn't. This recipe is easy, makes 2 loaves. You can use it for multiple things. I've made this, cubed it, and used it as some of the bread in my dressing recipe for Thanksgiving. You could make anything you'd want to make with bread with it, dipped in beef stew, really good. And if you are like me and forget about it, you can make some breadcrumbs, you can make croutons, but just slicing it, eating it by itself or with some butter is really delicious. I hope you'll give this a try and start making your own bread instead of relying on store-bought. It's easy, it's delicious, it's cheaper, and definitely better for you. I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, God bless.